Hello. So we have discussed the currency exchange rates and currency exchange markets. So let me now try to connect the exchange rate of the US dollar and the Trump's tariff plan to balance the current account deficit. So we discussed already previously how the exchange rate can influence the current account balance. So suppose that the country is running a current account deficit there. So then depreciation of the currency would help to balance the current account because depreciation would tend to increase export demand and decrease import demand. So if the problem is current account deficient, then the policy should aim towards depreciation of the currency exchange rate. And in contrast, appreciation of the exchange rate has opposite effect because export demand decreases and import demand tends to increase. So if the currency appreciates, then the current account deficit tends to get worse. So interestingly, I took this newspaper article from Spanish El País that indicates that the US dollar soars both relative to the Canadian dollar and Mexican peso as a result of the announced tariff to Canada and Mexico. So this was immediately when the Trump government announced tariffs for Canadian imports and Mexican imports. And as a result, then of course the currency exchange rates reacted. And this newspaper article actually mentioned several valid points that I wanted to mention. So first of all, if you think about Mexico and Canada, the implementation of tariffs obviously weakens demand for products from Mexico and Canada. And of course, the USA is very, very, very important trade partner both for Mexico and Canada. So this, of course, will then influence the exchange rates of Mexican peso and Canadian dollar. But so far, there has been Donald Trump has talked about tariffs also to the EU. However, this is not implemented yet. But already this kind of tariffs to Mexico and Canada will also influence the currency exchange rate between the euro and the US dollar, because then there's also of course the tariffs increase the inflationary pressures in the US, so that will then influence the central bank's interest rates in USA and Europe. So this is something that we discussed in one of the previous videos, how the central bank's interest rates affect also the currency exchange rate. So empirically, I have here a figure from the European Central Bank describing the development of exchange rate between euro and US dollar. So notice that this is the value of euro in US dollars. And this is late 2024 and early 2025. So notice that at the highest level, end of September, 1 euro was worth 1.12 US dollars. So the decreasing trend in this figure means that the value of euro decreases relative to the US dollar. So that means that the US dollar is appreciating. So the value of US dollar increases relative to euro. And that, of course, if you think about the trade balance between the EU and the USA, that would, of course, make the European-made goods less expensive in the USA, partly offsetting the impact of tariffs, potential tariffs at this point. And in contrast, it would make the American goods more expensive in Europe, which would further decrease the current account balance between the USA and Europe. So this indicates that indeed the exchange rate can offset, at least have offsetting effect for this planned tariffs. And how sustainable this kind of exchange rate appreciation is? Remember that there's also connection with the interest rate, and like this newspaper article of El Pais indicate that there is of course a difference in the central bank interest rates. So I took these two announcements. The first one from the European Central Bank (ECB) that set the interest rates to 2.75, 2.9, and 3.15. These are the three central bank key interest rates, whereas Federal Reserve 1 day earlier had 4.25 to 4.5% maintaining these interest rates in the US. So definitely there is a notable difference in the interest rates, and the higher interest rates in the USA will of course then strengthen the US dollar relative to euro. So indeed, if we think about this ability of using tariffs to influence the current account deficit, then according to this article in Politico, then during the first term of Donald Trump in the office, he also used some tariff at that time, and it seemed that it was rather ineffective towards this to influence the current account deficit. And one of the main reasons mentioned in this article is that the tariffs on China, they did reduce imports from China, but then they were replaced with imports from other sources. So it didn't really influence the overall current account deficit. And this is what many experts believe, that also during the second term of Donald Trump, the tariff plan is potentially ineffective. Of course, now the tariffs appear to be much more comprehensive and also larger than before. So in the next theme, we will then discuss the financial globalization. See you then.